Welcome to our next episode. Today's theme is focused on AI and digital labor. And joining me is Ergun. I said that right?
Very well done.
Okay. Ergun, Turkish name, correct?
Spot on.
All right, wonderful. So Ergun, you're with IPsoft.
That's correct.
Can you tell me a little bit about you and IPsoft itself?
Sure. Can tell you quite a bit about it. I've been here for 20 years, and the company's been around for 20 years.
20 years, all right.
It was 7 of us that started coming out of NYU and starting a little loft space in Soho some 20 years ago. So about the late 90s, my brother and I, our CEO, Chayden, and a few other peers, Gary, Mike, were at NYU. And then Chayden was finishing his dissertation on deterministic finite state machines, which is a very catchy topic.
Yep,
that
sure,
drew a lot of interest. Yes. I believe the paper is still collecting dust somewhere in the library at NYU. And we thought, well, Chayden thought about finding a real world application for the research done on how could machines apply decision trees to take on the role of common, challenging human tasks.
Okay.
That started the company.
Was this the orientation or the beginnings of AI?
The beginnings of AI, I would blame Mr. Alan Turing for that.
Okay.
In the 1950s and his paper on, he proposed to ask the question, can machines think? This was, however, what I would say is probably the beginnings of practical application of AI.
Okay.
We've talked about it for a long time. There's been a lot of fiction around it.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, there's been very little reality around it, especially when we started.
Right. Robots taking over the world and everything else.
Great movies, movie magic, but not commensurate with anybody that knows technology, nowhere near the reality. So when we started leveraging deterministic finite state machines to apply intelligent machines to solve problems for humans in IT, you couldn't sell AI back then because nobody was talking about it, nobody was buying it.
Right.
So we actually started as a managed service company.
Okay.
And what that means is everybody was offshoring and nearshoring, and we said, you know what? We'll sell you that service, but instead we're going to leverage digital labor, machine labor, instead of human labor to do that. That was our starting point.
Okay.
Ever since then, at some point, we realized I talk too much. So instead of just writing the code anymore, now I speak about the code.
Gotcha. Well, why don't we start with the very basic question, because I think everyone gets so confused with this. What is AI, artificial intelligence? Define it for me.
First and foremost, it's a marketing term.
Okay.
That's what it's become, right?
Yep.
There's a lot of buzz around it. Being a practitioner of it for 20 years, I would like to talk about it in a very practical term.
Okay.
What is it and what isn't it in the real world?
Yeah.
In practical terms, I would break it up in 3 concise categories.
Okay.
One is what we often think about, which is analytics.
Okay.
Leveraging machine learning algorithms and probabilistic models to look at unstructured data.
Okay.
Things like your customer data, what are they saying, what are they doing, and trying to get insights on that data. That's your analytics part. That's usually what people think about. It's almost an evolution of your big data that we used to be so excited about a few years ago and nobody speaks about anymore. That's what it is now. It's AI for analytics.
Okay.
The next layer of it I would talk about then is conversational AI, which I think is a fascinating one. Now you're talking about leveraging AI to take the role of a human being in an interactive dialogue and helping a person solve a problem. Very different than a chatbot, very different than analytics. This is about natural language.
Sure.
And we've seen examples of it, but we're not talking about chatbots. Something very different. We can talk a bit more about it if you're interested. And then the third layer I would break it down is autonomics or AI for the enterprise.
Okay.
It's about automating the common tasks in the enterprise. Analytics looks at data, conversational AI looks at human interaction, and then autonomics or enterprise AI looks at, hey, how can I automate the common human tasks in the enterprise that interact with systems?
Okay.
And these can be things like interacting with managing your network or filing an invoice, maybe putting machine learning algorithms on top of your RPA, your robotic process automation solutions, things like this.
Okay. So AI itself, I mean, you've broken it down into 3 categories. You've got data, you've got the actual human interaction, and you have the system itself. Right. So we'll unpack that. But I've been doing this for 30 years, right? So I have gray, you just can't see it. And what I've seen is every company I've worked at or every company I've worked with has the same problems. whether it's internal employee facing or whether it's external customer facing.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you apply this practically? And maybe we should just go this one at a time, right?
Yep.
Tell me how you would say, okay, I'm going to put AI in. The CIO has just said, you know what, let's do this for data analytics.
That's right.
What the hell does that mean?
So, and this is exactly the challenge most of my colleagues in the industry have, is they're in leadership roles. You know, they're CIO, CTO, and the board or the CEO says, you know, we need to leverage AI.
Let's go.
We need to be ahead of the competition. We can't fall behind. And now you're thinking, what does that mean?
Right.
So now you're being asked by your leadership. You need to apply AI. Your CIO has been told by his board, by his CEO, go apply AI to my enterprise because everybody else is doing it. Well, how do you start? The first key thing, identify the problem you're trying to solve.
Okay.
Matters more than anything else.
Right. If you have a clear problem definition, you're going to be able to apply exactly what it is that needs to solve that problem.
That's right. People get caught up about the hype of AI to bring AI.
Yeah.
What you really need to do is solve a problem.
And let's go to that practicality part again.
Yes.
So I mean, we talk about call centers, and you know, I look at this as inside of a company. You know, employees have this experience, and I've had this all the time. You know, whether I have to log into Workday to go look at something. I have to go to Oracle. I have to go into AWS to look at instance sizes. There's so many different enterprise systems that are out there, and you talked about a chatbot and this conversation or a call center type thing. If I have to call HR, I have to call IT, or I have to send in a ticket request, the experience is horrible and the efficiency is really, really low. So this is where I mean, I think there's a practical implementation of that digital labor specifically in that area, and that's what you guys are focused on, correct?
You've nailed it. You've nailed it.
Now why is that different? You know, you're saying conversationally. That means that they can have a cognitive conversation with you?
You've hit the nail on the head.
Okay, explain that one for me.
You hit the most relevant question. And chatbots are very popular. Mm-hmm. They're everywhere. There's a tremendous level of engagement in the market deploying them. Mm-hmm. They are not popular with your customers.
I do not like them.
I would ask your viewers, take a survey. What percentage of them have had a successful positive interaction with it?
When you know it's actually a chatbot and a machine behind it. That's worse. Because you're typing something, they can't even get a context of what you're saying.
Now, it's not the chatbot's fault.
Okay.
And this is the point of articulating what is conversation AI and compared to chatbot. Because it looks the same, right? You're having a conversation with a machine.
Yeah.
So what's the difference?
Right.
The challenge that you have with a human being is they introduce variance by nature.
Okay.
If I wanted to do something 1,000 times and make sure it was not done the same way, I would give it to a human being.
Yeah, right.
I would be guaranteed
that
it will not occur the same way 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Chatbots are rule-based. Mm-hmm. They're well-defined criteria. They look at buckets, and if you fit in that bucket, you do that one task.
Yeah.
Now
A plus B equals C, you're done. Yeah.
And now, if I introduce variance, I have ensured that I'm not going to consistently define buckets.
Okay.
And it is very difficult to find every possible variation a human being. I'm going to say it's impossible. Maybe it's not, but I think it's impossible to find every possible variation.
Humans are
the way you
unpredictable.
convey. You want to make a transfer from your checking account to your savings tomorrow if your balance is over $500.
Yeah.
Say that to a chatbot. You say that to a human being.
Yeah.
Understand the inference, understand the implications. Based on all that, I need to check your balance.
Yeah.
I need to check the time. And if all these conditions are true, then I'll make a transfer.
Contextual.
Conversational AI's focus is not one-shot interaction, but instead being aware of context, as you said, to be able to have a multi-turn dialogue. A multi-turn dialogue is a conversation.
Yeah, like this.
It's exactly right. Being able to recognize the intent, ask questions if there's ambiguity, as you do, get clarification. Mm-hmm. So you ask your questions, you get clarification. You now understand, okay, I understand what this person's trying to do. Take an action and solve a problem.
Right. So you guys have right now the ability to implement cognitive digital labor that can have these natural language processing conversations with internal focused employees or external focused customers?
You know that. And not right now. We've been doing this for the last 5 years.
Okay.
So this is not, we're just getting started trying
This
to
is
figure
real,
this out.
yeah. Okay.
We are on version 3.8 of the technology that is deployed at enterprises across the world.
And this is both the chat interface, not a chat bot, but the chat interface to be able to do that, as well as voice.
That's correct. It's on the phone.
Yep.
It's on your home devices like your Echo or your Google Home. It's on your mobile app.
Yeah.
And it's on things like Skype for Business if you're talking to an internal employee, or a web chat UI.
Got it.
Typically,
Okay.
So today, for example, one of these AIs alone is handling hundreds of thousands of phone calls in South America from a telco customer. It's about, I think yesterday had like 240,000 phone calls.
A day.
And those 240,000 calls had about 92% completion rate, meaning it solved 92% of the calls without engaging a human.
I really want people to understand this. The transformational impact of that statement, that these call centers with humans that are unpredictable, that are reading scripts that cause a really frustrating experience for actual customers, suddenly you flip that back around. You can take even more, and the efficiency of it and the effectiveness of it and the customer sat just goes through the roof.
And you would ask, as a fair question, why would somebody want to talk to a AI instead of a human? The simple answer has been this. We've actually seen a 14% increase in customer satisfaction. So AI wasn't on par with human support, it was better.
Yeah.
And the reason was, now you have to unpack it, why? The reason was, one, you were never on hold.
Yeah.
You called, your answer was not 5 minutes later. Two, you got a consistent response. And the AI took action, solved your problem, documented it for you, and if you needed human help, it got human help.
And it can help the scattered conversation that moves to different areas, right?
That's it. So now we're talking about conversational AI that
Yeah.
in a conversation for you and I to be successful, I will candidly tell you, despite the smiling face, I am a difficult person. When I ask for help, I can be demanding, and I may have multiple things on my mind I need to help you with. And in my mind, they all make sense, but I'm switching context.
Yep.
The role of conversational AI is to understand the context of the conversation it's having, and then be able to say, oh, you started calling me about making a transfer, and then you realized you lost your credit card. Should I stop and say, I'm sorry, but how much did you want to transfer?
Yeah.
Let's go solve your credit card problem.
Right.
And after I solve your lost credit card, and by the way, I double check, do you have disputes?
Yeah.
Are there any fraudulent transactions? Come back and say, oh, by the way, did you want to complete your transfer?
That's great.
Understand your context
Yep.
and be able to apply it. So today, those are the types of roles. One is, as you said, customer facing. The other one we see, as you rightly point out, is employee concierge. Yeah. But can you consolidate? Think of a large enterprise. You and I have both
Every large enterprise.
How many different contact points are there for an employee to try to get something done?
It's so frustrating. And again, from personal experience, it's just as that if I could make it really simple, like for example, take what you said. If I had one chat interface to be able to say, I want to do this in my own natural language of the way I type, and it could unpack it and do it, oh, so much easier. Because I don't have to file a ticket, I don't have to follow up with somebody, call, whatever, and is that done? It's actually happening. That's a huge transformation.
And you skip the first step, figuring out who the right person is to create a ticket with.
True.
Which is the first block of anything.
Yeah.
If you've noticed that most enterprises, the executives, will go call a person they know.
Who knows? Exactly.
As opposed to doing it because they don't know where to go. So they're like, hey, Bob.
Go make this happen for me.
Thank you, because we navigate systems.
Right. Now every employee will have a concierge for their need.
And this is where you think about a multi-role conversational AI.
Yeah.
So you now think about, and we have deployed a very large bank here, a number of very large banks here in the US, a large insurance company. What we've done is we said, okay, let's have each of the different lines of business in the firm train and educate the conversational AI in that role. So you have an HR.
Yep.
Conversational AI is AI, HR million. You have an HR.
Finance.
You have one for finance. You have one for compliance.
Yep.
You have one for IT service desk. Each of these Amelias have their own hat, their own skills.
Yeah.
But in one conversation with you, she discerns, based on the context, which part of her knowledge does she need to use. So you never have to know, oh, that question was actually answered by compliance,
Yeah.
not by HR.
Right.
That could be a blurry line.
Yeah.
But the machine is aware of the different, leverages and answers the question, and you can go across those domains as you go.
That's amazing. So
Outcome being, can you solve a problem?
okay, so let's shift gears here, because
Please.
I think what you've explained really clearly is that there is an opportunity both for internal-facing interactions with humans, right, whether employees, et cetera, and systems, and there's an external as well. But now let's flip it around. The people that have to do this, the system solution itself, that next category, what does that look like on the back end? How does that work?
You asked the right question. And by the way, it is a challenge most enterprise has been actively trying to address for a very long time.
Okay.
Every enterprise that you know has either bought software or built software or a combination of the two to help them manage their infrastructure, their technology, their data centers, their applications, etc. You have these ticketing solutions like ServiceNow. You have monitoring solutions. You have etc. We all have them. Yes, I can't imagine one enterprise today.
Right.
Unfortunately, I can't imagine that one enterprise that doesn't have more than one of these solutions. Right?
Yeah.
That's a separate problem. But I will try not to judge. But the reality is, you have all these pieces of technology. Okay, great. You then still have all these people that you've had to staff to fill the gaps and middleware, the empty space between all those pieces of technology you brought in. You have a ticketing system, you have a monitoring system, and then you have people in between doing those things and trying to act on them.
Yeah.
And then maybe you have an RPA bot here that does one part of the process to automate, like all the way on the edge, but...
And you said RPA.
Yes, the robotic process automation.
And it's basically automation.
It's
itself,
basically, specifically, so I think of automation in 3 layers if I was to break it down. One is you can automate through APIs. So programmatic interfaces, somebody's written a system you can call directly.
Yeah.
2, you can automate through the command line, like act like an engineer and like a system engineer, database engineer, and log in and do something directly on the server.
Sure.
And the third one is you need to do it on a graphical interface, like the desktop interface, a graphical user interface. To do that, that's RPA.
Okay.
So the first layer API is typically integration framework, doesn't require APA. Command line automation, that's where we use our deterministic finite state machines to be automating the command line.
Yep.
And the third one, RPA, is when I now need to open up a desktop, a browser, click around, and do something.
Yeah.
So those are the 3 layers. So now, you typically in enterprise, you have an RPA solution that's doing something on a screen, but it's a small part of a problem. It's only doing that narrow definition of the problem.
Yeah.
You have some scripts that you've written here, like PowerShell scripts to automate on the command line.
Yeah.
And then you have all these APIs. What you really need is end-to-end automation. And system automation is about saying, I don't care which of those 3 I need to leverage. I don't care which combination of those 3 I need to leverage. My job is to solve the problem.
Yeah.
So when I get a contact from a customer, or when a customer's monitoring system sends me an alert saying, hey, I have this problem, the enterprise autonomics AI says, how do I use the tools available to me to solve the problem that came in?
Yeah.
And now it will go reach out to API as needed. It will run an autonomic engineer to go do something on the database.
Yep.
And if needed, it will go run that RPA bot. Our mandate, and this is the problem we focus on with OneDesk, is can I layer an enterprise AI like OneDesk across all the existing tools I have and leverage them? So the AI provides a value in automating operations without having to replace a single piece of software.
Yeah.
But
Got it.
provides layer across those pieces.
This is so important, this point you're saying, because I've done this a number of times. It's very complicated, especially if you're trying to integrate companies or you're trying to split companies or just implement new systems. It's all those disparate systems. And so having the ability to aggregate them all together into one way in which they're interacted with, right? That's the punchline of this. And then, so let's talk a little bit more about how IPsoft does this, and not the technical underpinnings. I'm saying that we've got those concepts. What are the solutions? So like OneDesk and OneStore, et cetera. What would people use to do exactly what we've been talking about?
So let's take it from the top down.
Okay.
High level, OneDesk contains Amelia, which is our conversational AI.
Okay. And
OneDesk is the enterprise AI. So
Okay.
its job is to drive end-to-end automation in the enterprise, leveraging all the disparate technologies they have.
Got it. And just to be clear, so
Yes.
OneDesk is the interface. Amelia is the AI on the background.
Amelia,
right?
so Amelia is a part of the AI.
Okay.
So to try and define it well, Amelia is a conversational AI.
Yep.
Amelia's job is focused on being able to understand a human being,
Right.
solve their problem, interact with them.
Voice or chat.
Nailed it.
Okay.
In addition to Amelia, you have Autonomics AI,
Got it.
which
Okay.
is about being able to interact like an engineer on a command line and solve a common inter-system interaction issue. And then there's RPA AI, which is one RPA,
Yep.
whose job is to be able to leverage AI and machine learning on top of desktop interactions, etc.
Okay. Taking all.
OneDesk contains all three of these.
Got it,
It's a
okay.
combination of these. And when you look at where you would focus your mandate, if you are focused on solving a call center problem, where you're trying to deliver more efficient call center experience, expand the coverage, provide AI into new channels, that's Amelia mandate. And I have very strong advice on how you would identify use cases there that are specific to what will make you successful there. If you're looking at, I have an enterprise organization and I have HR, finance, I have IT, and I want to run my enterprise operations more efficiently,
Yeah.
that's where OneDesk comes in.
Got it.
OneDesk's job is to then help you look at your enterprise as a whole,
Yeah.
leverage Amelia, Autonomics, and AI-based RPA to help you automate end-to-end inside the enterprise. Amelia is conversational. It can be internal, external. OneDesk is about automating the enterprise operation itself across towers.
Gotcha. Okay. So there's practical solutions, and you have this new thing called One Store.
Yes, that
Which this is what blew my mind when I came back and started talking to you guys again, right? Just digging in deeper. The fact that I
Yes.
can download digital employees,
Yeah,
like at the App Store.
you've said it very well. You've said it very well. That is probably the biggest value we've been able to bring our customers.
Sure.
And I'm a geek, that says a lot, because I really like our technology.
Yeah.
One Store is not so much about technology. One Store is about experience. In the market today, how many companies are there that have somewhere AI in their name? Okay. What's the average age of those
Of the
companies?
companies?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're not that old.
A couple years?
Yeah.
Maybe less. Average?
Yeah.
Average. We're 20 years old. For good or for worse, we've been applying AI solutions for our customers
From the foundation up.
for 2 decades.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
And as a consequence of that, and I'll be very candid, it wasn't planned, but an unplanned consequence of that is now we have. When we began, I would come to you, Mr. Nelson, I'd say, I have an AI platform, it will help you drive automation in your enterprise across these different powers and different abilities. Today, I now have 20 years of trained AI agents.
Yeah.
The foundation of One Store, and it's really, we're thinking about it as a digital workforce marketplace, where you can go and hire digital employees that have years of experience having done that job at other enterprises.
Yeah.
Bring them in, so you can bring in HR
Yep.
digital employee, or you can bring a Oracle expert digital employee for your database, or a banking expert for your customer facing.
Right.
So tomorrow you're not starting where I was in the beginning, when I'm giving you AI solution and say, let's figure this out together.
Yeah.
I'm now saying, here's your banker.
Right.
Start with your banker that understands the terms and terminology. If you say balance, it's not about standing on 2 feet. It's the amount of funds in a particular account.
Yeah.
Understand the language, understand the actors, know what a transfer means, and now start your customers off. And that's what our focus has been now, is with One Store, taking that 20 years of experience that we have, bringing them together and pre-trained, enabled digital agents across those technologies, so across conversational AI, across autonomics, across RPA, and then being able to make them available to our customers in that online format so they can bring them in as they need. That's correct.
I'm going to get down to 2 last questions.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now that we've got all these, an understanding of the systems and how this is, the underlying, the underpinnings, and how it would work, can you tell me some of the results that have happened with people who have truly implemented this
Yes.
at scale?
And I'll also, if you don't mind, my lessons learned.
Yeah.
Because I have made mistakes.
No.
That's shocking. I know. 20 years, what could possibly go wrong? I figured that out every possible way. When you're looking at applying AI, my first advice was the same as my last advice. Solve a problem.
Yeah.
That also means don't use AI for FAQ, don't use AI for simple. Use AI solutions to actually take action, solve a problem.
Okay.
I have had my poor side of the experience where a customer wanted to move very quickly, didn't integrate with their backend systems. We said, fine, we'll do an FAQ-based conversational AI, achieved, I believe, 92% accuracy with about 24% customer satisfaction.
Okay.
Not a resounding success.
Right.
We've now taken that same solution, enabled it with backend systems to actually take meaningful action. You know why 240,000 calls are answered in a day by AI? Because you can actually solve the problem.
Yeah.
Focus on the problem that you're trying to solve and enable your AI to actually take action on it. When we have seen that with a focus, we've seen customers get range. We had Allstate. They published a Wall Street Journal article on this.
Yeah.
A blog, actually, I believe. Within the first deployment, their first time right went from 66 to 76%.
Okay.
That's at go live. Think about over time. The average call handle time went down by more than 15% at go live and trending down since. These are the type of metrics that you see. But it requires you to actually focus on use cases where AI is enabled to take meaningful action. Because if you just deploy your AI without enabling with the IT systems at the back, it's not going to drive value.
Yeah.
But if you do, then you can actually see it solve real world problems and relatively significant metrics.
Awesome. So hundreds of thousands of actual voice calls a day.
Absolutely. And we're handling, on the digital channels, I mean, we're somewhere over around, in a month period, we're millions of chats handled by AI across multiple roles. We probably have today, driven by customers, some 400 skills, different AI abilities that are enabled in the market and continuing to expand.
Yeah.
We've seen one of my large financial service firms reduce call center costs by about 72%. What are the 5 things you call your telco about, your wireless provider about? Put 5 things. My bill, reception, I'm traveling internationally, change my plan.
Yeah.
If you handle your Pareto principle, you know, the very wise Italian who gave us 80-20 rule. If you apply your 80-20 rule, focus on 20% of your volume that drives 80% of you'll actually address quite a bit.
Usually these opposing things happen. You try to get more efficient and you have a worse customer experience. You try to have a better customer experience, you drive down efficiency and increase costs. This is the ability to actually solve both together.
As long as you enable the AI to solve a problem,
Yep.
and give it the fair playing field to actually be helpful, then yes.
Got it. So we're going to wrap up with one last question.
Yes, sir.
If anybody wanted to take one thing away from this entire conversation, what should it be?
Focus on outcomes.
Okay.
There's been a lot of hype around AI, which means every enterprise wants to try it, dabble their toes in it. But it's very easy to get disillusioned with it. That means if you try to bring AI or play with it, it's very easy to lose focus from the rest of the organization because they say, you know what, it's science fiction still and there's in the real world.
Yeah.
I would focus well-defined problems, things I understand well, that I have measurable outcomes against, and I would apply my AI solution to those measurable problems because success is your primary catalyst for driving adoption, especially in the market of AI where there's so many questions about it and very little understanding. So I would focus on
Excellent.
outcomes.
Well, Ergun, thank you very much for spending the time with me. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure.
Awesome. And thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode.